So we've been talking about meditation, and then we got up to the point where I gave some basic instructions on posture, how you need to sit in meditation. And something that we need to understand is that meditation is about two things. One, it's about developing good habits, and two, it's about getting rid of bad habits. And we need to do both of these things. So there's conditioning and deconditioning. We're conditioning ourselves to positive or virtuous acts and deconditioning ourselves to our negative habitual tendencies. So our tendencies towards negativity. So when we talk about conditioning, then we can think about conditioning in terms of virtue. What we're trying to do is to habituate ourselves to virtue. And in fact, this is the actual meaning of the word meditate. In Tibetan, it means to habituate or to familiarize. So we want to become familiar with virtuous acts. Hello! Hello! A very scary dog. Hello! A poodle as well. Morning! Yeah, I'll bark, no bite. And so we can think about this conditioning in terms of conduct, in terms of engaging in virtuous conduct. For example, giving in generosity, being kindly to others, that sort of thing. But as you remember, then there are three gates of virtue. That's of body, speech, and mind. And really, what we need to do is we need to habituate ourselves on all three levels. And that's something that doesn't happen immediately. It's something that we have to gain a habit for. And in terms of deconditioning or getting rid of bad habits, then it might be the case that we are a miserly individual. And so we have to break down that tendency towards miserliness. This mindset that doesn't wish to give away, but also this body that isn't habituated towards the act of giving. Now the problem is that conditioning doesn't happen immediately or overnight. It doesn't happen overnight, and also it won't happen unless you put in the effort. If you only believe in this life and do not believe that you can pass from one life to another, then you have a lifetimes of negative habits to get rid of. And you have a lifetime of inertia, or this resistance to positive virtue, that you need to counteract. But in terms of your meditation, then how does this apply? The main thing is you're trying to condition yourself, right? And this conditioning doesn't just happen immediately or overnight. It takes time. So initially what's important is that you practice for short periods and often. This is a mistake that many people make when they start meditating. They sit down and from day one, they decide that they're going to do 1 or 2 hours of meditation every day. But the problem is we haven't got the habit for this. And so it's better to develop that habit slowly, on a reasonable time scale, and with reasonable expectations. Otherwise, there's the danger of getting despondent, sort of giving up, or burning yourself out. For example, there was a student of the Buddha, and he had great faith in the Buddhist teachings and the teachings on generosity, but the problem was that he was an extremely miserly individual. He wasn't even able to give his wealth away to his own family. And so he approached the Buddha for advice and said, "Great sage, I have faith in everything you have taught, and I believe in the virtues of generosity. But the problem is, I'm a very miserly individual, and I cannot even give away money to my own family." And the Buddha said, "That doesn't matter. You start with what's easier. And so what you need to do is give from your right hand to your left hand." So in this way, then this rich king developed the habit for giving away. Even though he wasn't actually giving anything to anybody, he developed this mechanical or muscular memory for generosity on a very low scale. And in that way, then he was able to progress in his practice and eventually became a very generous donor to the Sangha. So for us, we need to work in this way. We need to habituate ourselves and condition ourselves bit by bit. And the best way to do that is to start with what's easier. And that applies to generosity as much as it applies to these habits of loving kindness and compassion. Initially, then it's difficult for us to have love and compassion for our enemies. And so what we have to do is we have to practice our love and compassion for those who are near to us, who we hold to be dear. And then we can train in spreading our love outwards, at first to those who are near to us, and then those with whom we have no significant connection whatsoever. And eventually we develop this ability even to have love and compassion for our enemies. Now this process is what is called skillful means. And it's something that you need to apply yourself to in your meditation. So as I said previously, then you set a schedule for yourself. Let's say every morning, first thing, before you go to work, you meditate for 15 or 20 minutes. And once that habit becomes established, then eventually you can extend the time to 30 minutes or 1 hour. And then over the space of several months or a year, you can develop a firm habit for meditation. If from the outset you try to do too much, then it's quite likely after a number of months that you will suddenly fall off the wagon. You'll lose the continuity of your practice because you started with your aims set too high. It's better to recognize where you are on the spiritual path and work with that. And that doesn't only apply to the mere mechanical workings of meditation. For example, we can't sit on the floor cross-legged for more than 5 minutes. Well, through time, we will be able to extend that time, and eventually we'll be able to sit for an hour or more in cross-leg on the floor, if we take it slowly. But if from day one you force yourself into lotus position, all that will happen is you're going to damage your knees, and you'll get fed up. And so eventually, this won't be beneficial to your progress on the path. Now, when we talk about conditioning, it's not merely conditioning our body in this mechanical and physical way. We also have to train the way we think. And likewise, we have to train our speech. As I said previously, then there are these 3 gates of virtue. But that means there are also 3 gates of misdeeds or non-virtue. And what we need to do is condition ourselves to virtuous acts and also get rid of our bad habit of negative acts. So for example, we might have this bad habit of speaking harshly to others, insulting them, and shouting at them. And this is not something that we can lose immediately. We might go into the workplace, and then if somebody does something to annoy us, immediately it will trigger our habit for harsh speech. And so what we need to do is, initially, is condition ourselves towards speaking kindly to others, having speech that is pleasant and is aimed at making others feel good and happy. It's not necessarily the case that in order to bring benefit, you have to talk sweetly. Sometimes, in drastic situations, it's necessary to use harsh speech. For example, if a young child was about to drink poison, you would have to act hastily and quickly to stop them from engaging in a self-harming act. Hello! Who else is wearing monk's robes around here?
Well, that's what Randy said. He said, I think that's another monk coming along. I said, how many monks do we have in the neighborhood?
I've not met any. You know this path up here?
Yeah.
You said that it goes to the river.
Yes.
Where is that? Because it goes down like that.
Yeah,
and
it goes down
turns.
the hill, and
Yeah.
it flattens out,
Yeah.
and the river's about
Oh, it's beyond that.
Yes.
beyond that, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you got to go down the big hill. And you
Oh.
can follow the river all the way to the clay banks. It's magnificent.
Wow, that's quite a long way, right?
Tell
Well,
you.
enjoy your walk.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And
Okay.
you too.
Bye-bye.
So what we need to do is we need to condition our body, speech, and mind. And in terms of conditioning the body, then that means being able to sit still. to sit in meditation posture. And although initially it may be difficult, then with perseverance, if we take it easy and be careful, then eventually we'll develop this physical habit and ability to sit for long periods in meditation. Also, we need to condition our speech. And so we have to condition ourselves to saying meaningful things and also expressing our love and compassion for others through our speech. When it comes to the mind, it's a little bit more difficult. But essentially, the mind is the root of everything. And so everything depends on our mental conditioning. And really, that's why we engage in meditation and contemplation and also study. For example, if you're engaging in the practices of generating bodhicitta or loving kindness, compassion, then this is something that you have to develop a mental habit for. But the point is that our conditioning of body, speech and mind is not something that happens in isolation. If we condition the body, it's not the case that this doesn't affect the way our mind is, and likewise our speech. For example, if we sit quietly in meditation posture, this will naturally make us a calmer and more peaceful individual. And also, by engaging in this silent sitting, then it will affect our habituated tendencies for speech. People who speak carelessly are not often taken seriously. They don't have weight to their words. Whereas those whose speech is guarded and speak only when it's appropriate are often respected by others. Through your physical conditioning, then, this will also condition your speech and your mind. Ultimately, what we need is this mental stability. But even the mechanical practice of sitting quietly on your own has an effect on the way your mind is. If we go out into the world, in the busy street or in the workplace, then this destabilizes the mind as well. And it's very easy to get frustrated, feel anxiety, or get upset. For example, the other day, I was in a rush to lag the pipes before the cold weather came. And not only that, then it was absolutely essential that I got back to the ferry on time because I needed to return home to look after my parents. I couldn't stay away for another day. And so there was a certain amount of pressure to get the work done. And not only that, the work was complicated and involved many different factors. So this naturally causes the mind to become agitated. Well, it's the opposite. When you sit in meditation, it naturally causes the mind to calm down. In fact, sometimes we calm down so much that we fall asleep. Now, in terms of deconditioning or getting rid of bad habits, then this is slightly more difficult. And that's because our bad habits are so entrenched. If we're a very angry person and we're always shouting at others, then it's almost as if we don't need any kind of trigger whatsoever before we start shooting our mouth off and upsetting people. And it is the case that by conditioning ourselves to keeping quiet or only saying things that are appropriate and kind towards others, that this can help to reduce our natural tendency to speak harshly to others. But really, ultimately, what we need to do is we need to recognize the negativity of our bad acts. So meditation acts to help us to develop good habits. And also, it helps us to get rid of our bad habits. And as I said, these things don't happen in isolation. They happen together in synthesis, in tandem. And likewise, these two aspects are related to method and wisdom. Method is the means by which we develop good habits. And you could also say that this is what is associated with the progressive path. Wisdom is about seeing things for the way they are. But the important thing is we need to embark on our journey. We have to start somewhere. And as I said in the previous video, that starting point is motivation. It's about understanding what we're aiming for, what our goals and objectives are. And then we have to use our wisdom to determine the best path for us to progress. And once we get on the path, then we have to be skillful. And that means not trying to do too much too early on. As I said, it's absolutely essential to do short periods often. To develop a habit, you've got to habituate yourself stage by stage and not try to do too much all at once. So this is just some general advice of how to apply yourself in your meditation practice. And then in the next video, I'm going to discuss some of the basic techniques that are used to develop this mental tranquility and also mental acuity. And so until then see you next time.